Hey, what's up? If you're like me, you love movies and you know about the IMDb Top 250 list. Now, every year there's new movies coming out that are super critically acclaimed, and especially if there's a lot of hype around them, like Oppenheimer for example, they're going to make their way onto that list. The issue is that if you want to do a challenge like completing a list of 250 movies, is that since new movies come in, the bottom part of the list is going to be always changing. Now, that might be to your benefit because you might just only be watching the new movies that come out, and the older movies that are still there are going to be like churned out. But watching the top 100 as it is, because it's usually full of mainstays on lists like this, is definitely doable. And as of yesterday, I am up to date with the top 100 of IMDb. So I thought that I would give you kind of a cool list here where I'm going to rank from 100 to 1 how I would rank the IMDb top 100, right? So this is just my subjective opinion, right? So don't hate. And of course, if you see a movie on this list that you don't think should even be here, then it's because it's on the IMDb top 100, right? So let's just get into it. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing the 100 to 91 spots. All right, at number 100, one of my more recent watches to complete this challenge is Three Idiots, released in 2009. Now, one of the things you're going to notice if you're trying to do a challenge like watching all of the top to 100 or all top 250 on IMDb is that there's a lot of Indian movies, a lot of Bollywood movies. And the issue with those movies are they're usually really, really long, right? Now, I don't mind a long movie if it deserves the length, right? But definitely your average person isn't going to have the stamina for a 3 hour watch when every single movie is basically 3 hours coming out of Bollywood, deserved or not. Now, Three Idiots is a comedy, and I just did not find it funny. In fact, if I were giving star ratings here, I would give it like a 1 out of 5. It's one of those things where, unless you're clued into the humor, you're just not going to enjoy it that much. As easy as that. So, bottom of the list here. Number 99, Ikiru. Now, this is a super famous Japanese film from 1952, and it's on multiple lists, not just IMDb. You're definitely going to find this on Letterboxd. You're going to find this on Sight and Sound. This is a critically acclaimed, like super loved movie, and I just did not like it. I thought it was so boring, to be honest with you. Completely. I mean, of course, this is my subjective list. I just found it boring. Now, this does have an American remake with Bill Nye. I did not watch that, but that one got like middling reviews, obviously with American remakes being what they are. But it's the story of like a man who's essentially diagnosed with something terminal. I think it might be cancer, and he kind of has like a change of heart for like a change of heart in terms of the life that he lived. He feels like he didn't do enough, and if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and you can watch it. But for me, I just found it too long, and I just wasn't captivated by the story. Next up is Capernaum. So Capernaum was released in 2018. Definitely one of the newer additions to the list, and it's gonna fall into the category of kind of like movie about poverty for the most part, kind of like your sad story. The main character is, yeah, it was a little boy, and it was about him. I think it's like, yeah, it's that he sues. Yeah, he sues his parents in court, and this is set in Beirut. Um, Definitely like saying the premise out loud, it sounds interesting. It's like, oh, this kid is suing his parents literally, because of the life that he's had to live. But it's just, I don't know, it didn't really captivate me, and I found it also kind of boring. Next up, number 97 for me is Poor Things. Just this is such a bad movie in my opinion. I think just production design is good. Of course, the production design in all respects, right? The actual production design of like the sets and stuff, the cinematography to some extent is very interesting. The costume design, um, just the look of the film is top tier. But looks and like artistry are not enough to carry a film when you have a script and just a premise just this bad, to be honest. I was just like squirming in my seat, and I just felt like the movie kind of like outstayed its welcome, definitely felt long, and I just didn't care for what it had to say. I guess it's like some sort of lesson on feminism, but if you've heard the premise of the movie, I feel like, I don't know, it's a woman gets a baby brain put into her skull, kind of like a la Frankenstein. But then it's just like a sexual odyssey. It's just basically her having sex the whole movie. Um, but she has a baby brain, you know. So like, I don't know. It's kind of gross. Not a big fan. Next up is the one I just watched last night. 12th Fail. Now, it's a Bollywood movie based on a true story to some extent. The movie says in the beginning. I don't know how true this is. I didn't do any research, but you have a a man coming from like a poor family, and he lives in like a town that's full of kind of corruption. Even the cops and the mayor are corrupt, whatever. And the idea is that his school of that town, that school, everybody passes by cheating, right? But the twist is that he meets and gets inspired by this um like police officer who's like very straight edge, right? So he shows up to the town and he like catches the people cheating, and then he gets inspired basically to do better, to not be a cheater, and to achieve more. So basically, it's kind of like your story about just pure determination and motivation. Very motivational. It's like almost like rags to riches, but instead of riches, it's basically rags to like high station, right? So he basically undergoes that he wants to be an IPS officer, and in India, the IPS is like the top of the top of the top police force. You're talking about in a country with like a billion people, there's only like 5,000 of these cops. So him taking that test and going through that process, which is like a 3-step process, um, it's like super exclusive, super hard. So it's just a good motivational story, but I definitely felt like it could have been maybe a little bit less sappy and maybe a little bit more to the story. Pretty straightforward, but not a bad movie by any means. Number 95, Lawrence of Arabia. Now, this is a classic epic, right? When people talk epic, this is in terms of like the pedigree that this movie has is insane. David Lean, the director, he's famous for these types of older, like great epic movies. I've seen other movies of his, like The Bridge of the River Kwai. This just didn't do it for me. And at 228 minutes, this is one of the longest movies on this list. And outside of like its impact on cinematic history and like some of the shots, it just didn't do it for me. Next up, 94, Wall-E. Now, Wall-E is definitely an interesting movie in terms of like its prediction of what the future is going to look like, and it definitely is right on that. As people get, especially now with like the Apple Vision Pro that just came out, like it's kind of insane. But I don't know. It just I've never had a feeling of wanting to watch it again. I think I might have watched it like twice. Um, but unlike other Pixar movies, it doesn't like call back to me to, oh, I gotta watch it again. Number 93, and this is where I'm gonna get a lot of people angry. Number 93, Return of the Jedi. I am not that big of a Star Wars fan. I feel like the best part of the Star Wars movies are the music. In terms of the actual story, and especially like how George Lucas has retroactively, in my opinion, made them worse. Um, like it sounds like it's like just this mythical beast in terms of seeing the original cut of these movies because of how many times he's changed it with like shitty like 2000s CGI kind of inserted to kind of like build out the world. Like if you watch, like I have these movies on Blu-ray. Like if I put them in, like I can tell exactly where the meddling was. He like inserts like into the background like these almost cameos of like the other aliens that he came up with in the newer movies, and it just looks so out of place, and it definitely like degrades the movie. But even ignoring the changes that George Lucas has done, I've just never been a fan of the actual core story. The concept of lightsabers is so iconic, and I feel that's amazing, and the music is amazing. But in terms of the characters and just the actual story, especially this one being the ending of it, least favorite for sure. Number 92, The Great Dictator. Now, this is a Charlie Chaplin film. It's famous for being the one where he first spoke on camera, I think. It's a parody of Adolf Hitler, World War II commentary, satire here. It's not my favorite of the Charlie Chaplin films that I've seen, but still really solid. Next up is City Lights, and the last for this list, another Charlie Chaplin film. I think it's the first one that I watched all the way through. Um, I think this is the one. No, that's Modern Times. This one, I remember liking it quite a bit, but it's not my favorite Charlie Chaplin film, which you'll see later on the list. I think it's Modern Times would be my favorite in terms of like watching it and actually finding it funny. But City Lights has the famous boxing scene, very iconic scene in terms of silent like movies. Um, but that'll conclude the list for today. So let me know down below what you think of this ranking. Maybe you could tell me if you've seen the top 100 IMDb movies or the top 250. Hats off to you if you've done that. How would you rank 100 to 91? Let me know down below. Leave a like, and thanks for watching.